Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion, and in this video I'll be previewing the upcoming World Cup clash between India and Sri Lanka. I'll be starting things off with Sri Lanka. Now, yes, they lost the previous game by a convincing margin. 240 odd was never going to be enough on a true Pune surface. I thought they got their batting lineup wrong on one count, and with the bowling, you know you have to take early wickets to be in the game. Madhushankar did that, and rather than going with your best opening bowling combination out of the series, which would be Madhushankar and Chameera, Kasarajda didn't bowl badly, but if you're going to bring Chameera on later, bring him on at first change rather than bring him on at second change, and when the ball had stopped moving around by then, and they brought Matthews on before, which I didn't get that at all. He went for 51 runs, didn't pick up a wicket, and Afghanistan eased to victory. So, tactically, I didn't get what they were doing the previous game. However, in this game, considering where they're playing, the Wankhede is a venue that gives an opportunity to teams more so than Pune does, where it's yes, both of those that you think are venues where runs can be scored, but a common misconception regarding the Wankhede Stadium is that you can score runs quite easily, whereas I think that is not the case by any means. Yes, you've had cases where almost 400 have been scored both times by South Africa, but it's a venue where even if you score that 310 kind of score, it will be a challenging chase despite what we have seen. The false representation that we have seen when games have been held there this year. Regarding the 11, I think they should go with, I've gone at Patul Nisanka and Dimut Karunaratne to open the batting, with Kusal Mendes to bat at 3, and I'll give my views on that in a bit. Sadira Samaravikrama at 4, Angelo Matthews at 5, Charita Salanka at 6, Dhananjaya De Silva at number 7, Mahesh Theekshana at 8, Dushmanta Chameera at 9, Kasun Rajitha at 10, and Dilshan Madhushankar at number 11. They should go with Dimut Karunaratne to open the batting this game because the ball moves around in Mumbai for the first overs quite a bit. If they go with the misconception of thinking, right, their runs on offer, we've seen what South Africa have done, and they go with Kusal Perera. We saw what happened in the Asia Cup final, and that I don't think that would be the case here because they've got someone like an Angelo Matthews to add assurance to the batting, but they will certainly lose early wickets if they don't play Karunaratne in this game. And at number 3, I've gone with Kusal. Well, I think there are two ways you could go about this. One, if the openers get past the power play, which they're both technically sound, despite the fact there will be a challenge to face the Indian steamers up front, you can back the two openers if they apply themselves to get past the power play. So the first wicket falls after then Kusal Mendes can walk out to bat at 3. But if they lose a wicket in the power play, rather than sending him out at 3 when you've seen in the last few games he hasn't had the returns that he did have in the first 2 games, and I've said even before, he veers on the attacking side. You can't expect consistency from him, especially in challenging conditions. And if they play Kusal Perera pretend ahead of Karunaratne, which they may not do because they've made that change in the previous game, but if they play him, then he's dismissed, then the attacking Kusal Mendes is dismissed, then we may see similar to what we saw in the Asia Cup final. So if one of the openers are dismissed, what I would do is send Angelo Matthews to bat at 3, bat Kusal Mendes at 4, and Samaravikrama at 5. Because Angelo Matthews has got the skill set. You think not that Kusal Mendes hasn't got that, but with Angelo Matthews, with the experience that he has got, averages 45 in Test cricket and has scored runs all around the world, he's got the skill set to bat at 3 in challenging conditions. So I would make that change. They may not do that, but if they lose an early wicket and they don't make that change, they may find things challenging. And I got Angelo Matthews to bat at 5 in this game. Now you've seen he's been slotted into bat at 7. He walked out at 7, I think, in the previous game, which I didn't get at all. Yes, he's good playing that finishing role as well. However, he's someone who takes a few deliveries and then looks to explode when he's well set. He's not a power hitter by any means. Sri Lanka don't really have a finisher. The closest player they have to kind of a more aggressive option at number 6 is one if Matthews gets set and then explodes, or Charita Salanka, where you've seen him bat at 5 in T20s, and even I think a few months ago against India he played a knock at Dharamshala, a 38 of 19 batting at 5, so he does have that game, and that's why I've got an Angelo Matthews at 5 to bat a few more deliveries by walking out earlier. Charita Salanka can bat at 6, considering out of Matthews and Asalanka, which is the player who you think is going to give you a bigger score more often than not? That too, batting the top 5 would be Matthews. if Sri Lanka scores a 40 or 50 and he bats at 6 and scores a brisk 40 or 50 and he has that game to succeed in that position as well, then you'd think it would bode better for Sri Lanka, be a more harmonious batting lineup than batting Matthews at 7 for some reason. You saw against Afghanistan, he's not a power hitter. He needs a lot of delivery to get set before he explodes, and he couldn't really make too much of an impact in the game. One, because they lost a few wickets, and secondly, it's not his game to walk out at 7 and then go for it. Most of the others picked themselves. Now, there's one spot that you could consider would be up for grabs. I still think it's a correct decision to play Kasun Rajitha. However, Chamira, Kasun Rajitha, Dilshan Madhushanka, the strength of all three of those is bowling up front. Now, I'd said when Matisha Patirana was in the side that he's the only one out of the seamers who was proficient at bowling the middle overs at the death, and you've not got that luxury here with him not being in the squad. So, if you're considering Sri Lanka's best opening bowling combination in terms of the seamers, it would be Dushmanta Chamira and Dilshan Madhushanka. So Kasun Rajitha may be rendered ineffective, and they have no other choice but to play him if they want to play another seamer, because you've not got someone else who can bowl in the middle phase or at the death. And as far as the options go on the bench, you've got a Chamika Karunaratne, who he's the only other seam bowling option in this side outside the first 11. You've got Matthews as someone who I think you should at least bowl 5 or 6 overs in this game. But in terms of frontline options, if you play him instead of Rajitha, you've only got 3 frontline options in Chamira, Madhushanka and Tikshana, and then fill-in options. And are you necessarily strengthening your batting if you play Chamika Karunaratne? No, you're not, based on what we've seen in the last few years. So they've got to go with this 11 most likely. If they are going to go with Dunit Velalage, which I don't think they would, Mumbai is a good ground for the finger spinners, and they'd have Mahesh Tikshana, Dunit Velalage, Charita Salanka and Dhananjaya De Silva. But if they're going to go for 3 seamers, which I think it would be the correct option, then you could bowl Kasun, Rajitha, Chamira and Madhushanka. But I think if there is a change that they'd want to make there, it would have to be between Rajitha and Velalage, because I don't think there are any other options in this roster. In terms of looking to win the game, Sri Lanka has to look to win the toss and bat first. Like I said, if the openers get past the power play, you can then send Kusal Mendes at 3. If they don't, send Angelo Matthews at 3. You're wasting him batting him at number 7. And if you're sending Mendes at 3, Angelo Matthews has got to bat at 5. And as far as the bowling goes, first of all, if they post 290 to 210, which would be a good score in Mumbai, then you've got Dushmanta Chamira and Dilshan Madhushanka to attack in the power play. The conditions will be in their favour as well. And Mahesh Tikshana has bowled with a new ball for Sri Lanka, but in this case he won't have to. And what you could then do is you could bowl Angelo Matthews, who can be that kind of the bowler to keep the runs down by bowling a tight line. Mahesh Tikshana to bowl in the middle phase as well. And then Kasun Rajitha, you have no choice here. You can use him as the enforcer bowler. He hits a length well. And you've not got a third seamer who be proficient in the middle overs and at the death as a frontline option, so you have to make do with what you have, but you could use Rajitha as an enforcer option when he hits a length. Dhananjaya De Silva can keep the runs down. He's an economical bowler, and Sri Lanka if needed, but if the others go well, I don't think he would bowl too much. So that's the way they've got to go. And in terms of selection, a bowler they could have selected, and this is what I didn't get, because as a replacement for Dasun Shanaka, they've selected Chamika Karunaratne, who were they looking for a like-for-like all-rounder? They weren't getting anything from Dasun Shanaka, and you selected someone who you haven't got much from either. So, do you want to select a like-for-like replacement, or someone who you think you can optimize in this 11? And they've clearly gone with the former option, and that's why I don't get the selection at all. And while Patirana was injured, you've selected Angelo Matthews. And I'm saying if you're bringing in Matthews and Chamira, it's not a bad thing. But what they could have done is, you haven't got a seamer to bowl in the middle and at the death as a front-end option. Pramod Madhushan, out of all the seamers they've got, you saw him in the Asia Cup where he bowled the fuller lengths well at pace. I mean, close to a Yorker length well at pace. He's the only one out of the stocks they've tried, if Patirana isn't there, who you could back to do that. So, rather than bringing in Chamika Karunaratne, who you don't have the confidence to play in the 11, they should have brought in Pramod Madhushan to play ahead of Kasun Rajitha, where even if India get through the power play relatively unscathed, you're giving yourself a chance where at the death, now it will be very difficult for the side. They have to finish things before the 40th over, because if they don't, then it'll be a bit of a free-for-all to death. if you've got Pramod Madhushan there, you've got some kind of an assurance to say you've got someone who can bowl that Yorker length at the death, because Madhushanka and Chamira aren't bona fide death bowlers at this point in time. So it's something they should have done. They missed out. And I think in terms of winning this game, batting first, and they've got to finish things with their bowling effort before the 40th over if India bat first. Because if they don't, it could be a bit of a free-for-all. Like I've said, this venue, if you've got the resources, it offers you a chance to even beat the informed sides. Sri Lanka do have a chance here, but it depends on how they apply themselves tactically. On India, a fantastic win against England where their character was exhibited. I think the best thing for them in this game would be for Sri Lanka to win the toss and choose to bat first. Now, like I'd said in a previous segment to this video, this venue gives a chance to teams that have got the resources, and that's why for all 4 teams who qualify for the semi-finals, and I think that race is sealed now, they'll all have a chance at this venue, especially if they win the toss and bat first. Rather than experiencing that challenge for the first time in a knockout game, if Sri Lanka win the toss and bat first, it will test India. And if Sri Lanka get a 310 kind of a score, I'd be looking forward to see how India go chasing that score down, rather than winning the toss, batting first, getting a whole heap of runs. So it'd be the best thing for India, Sri Lanka win the toss and choose to bat first and get that kind of a total. India should go with the same 11 that they went with in the previous game, and I'm sure they will do. And there's only one tactical application that India should be wary of, and that's that. You saw in the previous game and against Australia where I'd said KL Rahul should, against Australia in the absence of Shubman Gill, I said he should have opened. If he didn't open, he should have batted at 4. And yesterday, in the previous game, he should have batted at 4. We saw Shreyas Iyer being sent out when Chris Wilkes and David Willey were bowling the way they were, and unsurprisingly, he was dismissed. And like I said, with the technical soundness of KL Rahul against all forms of all types of bowling and against pace bowling when the ball's moving around, he's got the shot that Shreyas Iyer hasn't got, which is playing inside the line. He's much more still at the crease than Shreyas Iyer against pace bowling and the ball's moving around. So it makes perfect sense when facing Madhushanka and Chamira in challenging conditions where Rahul should bat at 4. Just because he's slotted in at 5, it doesn't mean he has to bat at 5, and that's something that the management should learn after seeing what happened on the previous 2 occasions. If they do that, it would give India, I think, the best chance to win this game, even if they had to chase the 310 kind of score. And you'd rather be tested by doing the right things than batting Shreyas Iyer at 4. If 2 or 3 wickets fall early on, it would still be a test for India, but it's not a test where you'd want to be tested from a situation that you'd think, right, 2 wickets falling in these conditions, it could happen to anyone. Can we recover from there? If you lose 3 wickets because of your own irresponsibility, that's just you making life tougher than what it needs to be made from your side. So that's why KL Rahul should bat at 4 in this game, especially if early wickets fall. And I think it'll be a good challenge for India if Sri Lanka bat first. I don't think there's any other tactical application from their point of view that they should consider, and they should go with the same team. And before I knew some information recently, I would have preferred India to finish second, as I think playing in the Eden Gardens would give other teams less of a chance. That if India played 3 spinners, I think they'd run through most sides. Whereas I think there's a rule, or there's been something that before the tournament where they'll be playing Mumbai no matter what. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. I think when making that rule, they may not have considered that it would give every team a chance. So I don't get why that rule has been put in place, but it is what it is. India can certainly win it, but any one of the 4 teams can win on the day. But India should test themselves. Even if they win the toss, they should choose to bowl first and test themselves. And yeah, I think it would bode well if they pass this test, if they have to chase a 310 kind of a score. It would bode well for India. They've won 6 and 6 thus far. And they've been going very well. And I hope 1 or 2 things happens. 1, if the Sri Lankan captain wins the toss, he chooses to bat. And if Rohit Sharma wins the toss, he should choose to bowl. So that's on this game. There's not too much to say from an India perspective. I think the tactical management would have to be done more so from a Sri Lankan point of view, as they've got more variables to contend with. And for India, when Hardik Pandya does return, the only player who he could play instead of would be Suryakumar Yadav. And he played well the previous game. I think if India get to a point in the game where they bat first or bat second, where they have to contend with Sri Lanka's death bowling, then Suryakumar Yadav, I think, will have a field day. And Ashwin would do very well on a surface like this. It would aid the finger spinner, but I don't think India should change the 11 for this game. If they do, I don't mind, because if Hardik Pandya was in the side, I would have played Ashwin ahead of Mohammad Siraj. Since he isn't, and I think going the three main frontline teams is the correct decision. And those are the only two selection calls for India. And for Sri Lanka, if they go with the factors that I suggested when I was talking about how they would go in this game, then they'd have the best chance of winning this game. But I still think India have got things in their favour to win this game, and let's see how this game goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?